We're in a pretty frustrating era for the Cars diecast line right now for several reasons, with one of the biggest problems being, of course, the removal of the deluxe line. We haven't had deluxes out since 2022, and honestly, while it's been really annoying that we haven't been able to get larger characters, I think Mattel has handled the situation pretty well. For whatever reason, they stopped making deluxes, but they started making much larger characters that certainly would have been deluxes before, singles instead, so you get bigger characters for cheaper. They also started releasing some larger characters in multi-packs, and then in 2025 we saw a shift, with the Race and Rescue line beginning to release larger characters, slightly shrunken down as singles instead. This is something that I've talked about several times now, and I'm sure if this continues, I'll have to talk about it several more times. This is something that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I understand it. We're in an era where, for whatever reason, there are no deluxes, and while I do hope the line returns at some point in the near future, it's just not happening right now, which is really annoying and really frustrating. And honestly, I'd rather take slightly shrunken down versions of characters over no longer receiving them at all. I complained a lot about this in my review of the 2026 Red. I was pretty frustrated with that item because, well, they previously showed that the larger deluxe Red could fit in a 2-pack just fine, and this year they shrunk them down and fit them in one. But when it comes to other characters, I think for now it's okay to shrink them down and sell them as singles. Would I prefer their deluxes come back? Yes. But for now, I think this is a fine solution. Hopefully it's not a permanent one, but hey, at the very least, it does mean we get some new and pretty interesting items from it, right? Anyway, guys, welcome back to yet another review, and to another 2026 Cars Diecast review, and to another new diecast review for 2026. This, of course, is 2026 Morgan Martins, a pretty interesting item for a couple of reasons. You see, in addition to being a re-release deluxe that's back as a single, Morgan Martins was originally a Super Chase when he came out in 2017. Here he is. This is the original 2017 Cars 3 Super Chase Morgan Martins. Then, of course, last year, the entire fan base was shocked with the release of Race and Rescue Morgan Martins, and now that mold has simply been reused for a re-release of Morgan Martins. But it's not really a re-release, right? It's just the Race and Rescue Morgan Martins, but in that smaller scale. It's a super weird situation, and it's even funnier because this year we did see Super Chases get re-released for the first time ever with Memo Rojas and Flash Nielsen. And I guess Morgan Martins is technically a re-release Super Chase, technically, but like also technically, even more technically, he's not, right? In concept, in theory, yes, a re-release of Morgan Martins would be re-releasing a Super Chase, but because it's not the deluxe coming back and it's a smaller version of him that's a single, it's technically not a re-release. It's a new item. It's a super weird, super confusing one. But I will say, the reception to this item from what I've seen has been pretty warm, pretty positive, because a lot of people obviously never got Morgan Martins before and are happy to see the character return in some capacity. And for people who are frustrated about Super Chases coming back, I mean, again, you kind of won here. This isn't a Super Chase coming back. What a weird and strange scenario. Can you tell why I've been having difficulty reviewing this? I picked this item up last Thursday, and I've been trying to figure out what to say for it ever since. It's a super weird item. Shrunken down deluxe, Super Chase, not Super Chase, re-release, new release. It's weird. It's weird. But if you know me, you know I love getting weird, new, specific, niche variants of Cars characters. And in an era where we're barely getting anything new from the movies, this item fascinates me. I'm definitely not going to like it as much as the regular Morgan Martins or the Race and Rescue Morgan, and I would prefer having that larger one back. But hey, it's technically a new item from the Cars movies, and now it means that Morgan Martins, of all characters, has 3 variants. So I don't know, that's just pretty interesting to me. So let's take a closer look here. It is so nice for this character to have artwork. Of course, being an item that only ever came out in 2017, Morgan Martins was never given official character art, since that was the year where the art abandoned us. It left, and luckily it came back the next year, but man, as great as 2017 was in terms of new releases, pretty dark time for Cars packaging with no images on the card backs. Last year, of course, we got our first glimpse at this artwork with the Race and Rescue Morgan, and that artwork has, of course, been edited to use his regular paint job. It looks, honestly, really nice. Moving on to the back of the package, you can see some of the other Cars 3 items out this year: Jonas Carvers, Dynaco Cruz, Richie Gunsit, Hot Rod Smokey, Barry D. Peddle, and JD McPillar. This cracked me up when I was in the store, using the artwork from, of all things, his Endurance Racer. That is so strange. I will say, as far as packaging errors go, I could totally see how this one was made, because the Endurance Racers do look very similar to the regular counterparts. But yeah, that's the Endurance Racer. You could even see the little Endurance Racer logo on the spoiler. Anyway, let's get this guy out of the package and take a closer look. When I reviewed the Race and Rescue Morgan Martins, I was genuinely impressed with how good of a job they did at adapting the original Morgan Martins mold to a smaller scale. And now that we have this version of him that's just the regular design but smaller, I think we'll have an even better look at seeing just how perfectly they adapted him. That's what I gotta say. Yes, we're in an era where there are no deluxes and they're shrinking down characters instead, but they're really putting their all into making these shrunken down deluxes look really good. When I reviewed Red, I talked about how it's pretty much a perfect representation of Red, just shrunken down to a smaller scale, and it even includes details that were not on the original Red, like the golden trim around his doors and sides. And Morgan Martins here, as you can see, is basically just a perfect recreation of Morgan, but in a slightly smaller scale. The one thing I don't like, same as with the Race and Rescue version of him, is the fact that the cab area is pretty squished, while everything else feels pretty proportional. You know, it's just the original one, but shrunken down. The front here feels squished, kind of chibified, with a clearly much shorter and stubbier and wider front. Not the biggest fan of that. Another thing that I will say, just to have said it, is I kind of wish that he had a different facial expression. All the Race and Rescue cars had different expressions than their regular releases. But now, this version of Morgan and the Race and Rescue one are using the exact same face. Or actually, maybe it's slightly different, ever so slightly, but still would have been nice, you know. It is a pretty good recreation of this facial expression, but I would have liked a more direct recreation of that facial expression if this is the, you know, new shrunken down Morgan. But other than that, everything looks just fine. Happy to see he has the black bumper here, as for whatever reason the Race and Rescue one had a gray bumper instead. I like how the lights look here better than here, but they're still detailed just fine. Roof lights are in the same configuration, slightly darker color here than here, slightly lighter shade of blue for his logos. We have Race Division 17 there, and moving on to the side, whoa, we have a lot of the other logos, again, just the exact same as the original Morgan. Race Division 17, then it says Rescue down here, number 17, Race Division. Of course, this guy appears in Cars 3 very, very briefly as the ambulance responding to McQueen's crash. And I mean, it's honestly just a nice item to have back. It's one of those where you saw the Super Chase and you're like, okay, this is cool. It's a really cool release, but you know, you kind of wished it wasn't a Super Chase, because it's the sort of item I think everyone should have. the race ambulance, just a really cool character concept. Rescue, Race Division. Now, if that were called Race and Rescue, this guy would want to talk. Moving on. Actually, let's look at the wheels. Yeah, wheels are a good adaptation as well. All right, moving on to the back. We have Rescue written here. I wish it jutted out a bit more like it does on this version, but it still does jut out just a little bit. We've got the keep back sign, just like a real ambulance would have. Race Division 17 again, and his license plate, which reads RSQ Medic, which I absolutely love. I think that's really fun. Buttons back here, buttons. The lights here kind of look like buttons. They're a little less shiny than on the original. There is a look at the other side, and there is a look at the base. As you can see, the front here is metal and the whole back cab part is plastic, just like the original and the Race and Rescue version. This is an item that, much like that red, I wish didn't exist. I wish we weren't in a situation where this item existed. But for what it is, if this is what we have to have right now, I think they're doing a very, very good job at shrinking down these characters to single scale. I could only hope that we see Deluxe's return sooner rather than later. But for the time being, I will say it's going to be pretty interesting to see what other items are shrunken down. Because, again, they're doing a pretty good job with it. And like I said, in an era where we're getting so few new movie releases, this is technically a new movie release. Not the type of new movie release we wanted to get, but it is still one nonetheless. And I'm very happy that people will finally be able to get a version of Morgan Martin's that is regular, other than the Race and Rescue one, which is also genuinely a pretty nice item. It is really funny how, again, this sort of worked out, right? Because for people who never got Morgan Martin's, congratulations, now you could get a regular Morgan Martin's. For people that are upset because the original Morgan Martin's was a Super Chase and they don't want Super Chase re-released, well, the new Morgan Martin's is very clearly not the same Morgan Martin's. So them having to do this, having to make smaller characters for right now, ended up working out in Morgan's favor. And I also do commend them for immediately going, oh, hey, we have the Race and Rescue Morgan Martin's mold, let's make the regular one. I hope to see other situations like that in the future. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this item in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now.